let's just say it was a choice to make the only black character a mentally a challenge, right? Let me start at the very beginning. So the black guy in the film, he's a robot, and the the main character's a dad found him on the trash pile, turned him on, and because he was a broken, he decided to keep the robot, and because it grew up with her, the main character sees it as her a brother, and because the a robot has a broken circuits, it is it is coded as a mentally a challenged a person or a person with autism because he twitches and he has a fixation on dad jokes, which plays into his personality. So anyway, the main character's a name is Arain, and she has a robot for a foster a pseudo a brother. Anyway, so the main characters want to break onto a ship and steal some cryopods so they can use them to get to a new star system because they're currently wage slaves. They work on a mining colony, and all of their parents are dead from cave-ins and like a disease and whatnot. So they want to steal these cryopods, go to a new star system, and have a new life. Now, because Rain technically owns Andy, they plan to use him to crack open the a spaceship's computer systems, right? So, like, let's talk about how they made the only black character in the film a servant. Let's talk about how he is coded as a mentally challenged, and let's talk about how every character in the film sees him as a less than a human because he's an android, and he was made by the company that technically owns all their lives. So one character, and if you go and see the movie, you'll know who I'm talking about. He really hates Andy because he sees him as the cause of all of his life's misery. Like his mom was killed when a robot made an executive the decisions, right? So he's like, you piece of metal, you're nothing but bolts and trash, and you're broken and damaged goods. And he's the only one who's like openly hates him for being a robot, but the other characters are no better because they're constantly going, oh, he's just a robot, he can't feel, he can't really think. And yes, while he cares for you, he cares for you because he was ordered to by your dad before he died, right? So basically, this black actor is playing a mentally challenged, a damaged android whose only purpose is to be a tool for other characters. So he is devalued, dehumanized, denigrated, and the only person who doesn't do that is Rain. But alas, she treats him as her mentally challenged a little brother, so he doesn't have a lot of agency, right? So they get on the ship, and he needs to open a door for them, but he doesn't have clearance. So they find a dead android, and they take its chip and put it into his brain, and that increases his intelligence, right? So he goes from being lobotomized, basically, to having a fully functioning brain. And because the chip they took was from a Wayland Yutani robot, his personality gets buried under the robot's objective, and that's to get the cargo to the company. But the cargo is not aliens this time around. Surprise. So you know that black stuff from Prometheus? Well, a Wayland Yutani got a hold of it, and they reverse engineered it or some shit, and they made it into like a serum to forcefully evolve human beings, because all their people keep dying, right? Because like the main character's parents are all dead because they live on the colony, and the colony has bad air. It has pandemics every year or whatever. So their plan, so a Wayland Yutani's plan is to inject all their new colonists with this serum, so they can be a perfect organism and survive space colonization processes. But yeah, back to the black character. He goes from being like mentally challenged to like fully intelligent, but with the change comes his human emotions and personality. And because he is now working as a company android with the mindset, he gets about 2 or 3 people killed, but one time wasn't his fault. He straight up told them, yeah, this thing is in her chest, it's gonna burst out and kill you all, don't take her with you. And the guy who really hates him is like, shut the fuck up, man, she's my girl, I'm gonna take her on the ship. And well, yeah, he dies, she dies, no surprise there. But yeah, like I felt some type of way seeing this black character be used as a tool by everybody else, and then when he gets intelligent and he starts thinking for himself, like there's this part in the movie where he starts glitching out, and so his adopted sister Rain, she takes out the chip she took from the other android, and this effectively lobotomizes him. Like, apparently, if he gets too intelligent, he becomes a dick. So they took out his brain chip, and now he's back to being his regular self. But he's like autistic, mentally challenged. And the point is, a lot of characters take advantage of him because of this, and I don't like it. I don't like it. I don't like seeing this black character, and yes, I know he's a robot, but it doesn't change the fact that this black coded, mentally challenged coded character is being devalued and used by everybody in the film but one other person. It just feels icky. But yeah, trailer moments. So yeah, the Chinese girl gets a chest burster, and that fucker does a lot of damage. Like, first it's on their ship, and then it gets on the main ship, and like the ship is called the Romulus, right? Except it's not a ship; it's a part of a ship. Like, at the very beginning of the scene, we see a Wayland. At the very beginning of the movie, we see a Wayland Yutani take a piece of space debris from the Nostromo, and you know how at the very beginning of that a movie, the ship, at the very end of the first Alien film, the ship Nostromo exploded, right? And Ripley shot the alien into space, right? Well, years later, Wayland Yutani retrieves that alien, and then years later, it comes alive. They kill it, and because it is such a big alien, all of its blood burns through the ship, and it breaks the ship up, and a huge piece of it winds up orbiting the mining colony the main characters are at. And they're like, oh, sweet, a random piece of tech. Let's just steal it and screw the company and go live our new lives. Everybody ends up dead except for the main character, right? So that's how it goes. You have a crew, we learn their names and their personality traits, and then y'all die one by one. So yeah, they board the ship, and it's ice cold, and they turn on the thermostat, and so it gets warmer and warmer, and that's where the face huggers come in, because when it was cold, they were hibernating, and then the humans come on, turn on the temperature, and that's how the girl gets infected. And it turns out there's also a shit ton of adult aliens who are also sleeping, and so they wake up, and so now it's like a race to get off this ship onto their smaller ship, because the bigger ship, the Romulus, it's in a decaying orbit around their planet, and their planet has ice rings. So as it sinks, it hits the rings and explode and stuff, and that's where you get that trailer shot. And the shot of her with the acid blood floating around her, she has the brilliant idea to shoot all of the aliens in zero gravity, so the blood can't burn through the ship. Woohoo! But there's still a shit ton of she basically made a death spiral of alien blood, and she's like, okay, we'll just float through it to safety. And I'm like, great, but didn't you say at the very beginning of the film that the ship has a gravity purge? Like every 10 minutes the gravity turns on and off. So they're at the end of their trek, and one alien grabs her, but fortunately the gravity turns back on, and it burns this massive big freaking hole through the ship, and it saves her. Surprise, surprise. And one of the characters, I never learned her name because all of these characters have a British accents except for two of them. So her name was Kate something. Anyway, she's pregnant, and she's like, I can't wait to get off this planet. I'm gonna have my baby on a planet with a real sun. It's gonna be so fucking great. Yeah, about that. so you know that black gooey stuff I told you about, and how Wayland wanted to create the perfect human to colonize space? Well, she gets shot up with it, and because she's pregnant, her baby grows super duper fast, and when it pops out of her, it's like 7 feet tall and naked and scrawny, and it has the face of an engineer from the Prometheus movie, but it has metal teeth. And I'm like, well, shit, I knew something was going to happen to you because you said you were pregnant. But that's kind of fucked up. So anyway, her kid comes out, grows really fast, kills her ass, and that's when Rain's like, I gotta shoot it at the airlock, right? So she puts on a suit just like Ripley. She opens the hatch just like Ripley. It flies out into space just like the previous alien from the very first movie. And just like Ripley, she is the very last survivor of her crew. And she makes a little audio log as well. Like this is Rain so-and-so of the ship so-and-so. My crew is dead. I am going off to a new star system to start my life in cryo. Goodbye. But yeah, that was the film. And it was good. Like, I thought it would give me a Star Wars, a Force Awakens vibe. Like, you know how a Force Awakens was a rehash of the very first Star Wars film? This movie was not a rehash. Yes, they do use some famous lines like, get away from her, you bitch. And I'm like, oh, it's a callback. Oh, look at that callback. It's so cool. But they didn't do that very often, and it was its own original film. Thank God. It reinvented the wheel, I guess. Like, yes, it's rolling, but it's different enough to warrant seeing it in theaters. That's what I'm trying to say. It's an 8 out of 10 movie. I already told you what I didn't like. Like, I went on a whole rant about the black guy being the only one who's a non-human, and he gets treated as less than. Like, I get that we're in space and the future and racism doesn't exist, but the way this one character is treating this character feels a lot like racism. but I get it, okay? Androids suck ass because they don't have human thought processes, right? Because when he's on the ship, he meets a bishop alien. Basically, it's basically a bishop, but it's called Rook. And the alien's like, listen, these humans have emotion. You must do what needs to be done. And that's when he becomes kind of a dick. But don't worry, he gets better by having his intelligence downgraded once again. Like, it's icky. But yeah, holy crap, I've been here for 15 minutes. But yeah, sure. That's how I feel about the film. It was a good entry that tied things together while still being its own thing.